Hey guys, Triple B here. Paldean Fates is coming out this week, or well, probably already out by the time I'm posting this video. Gonna be honest, just throwing this together pretty quickly because it's not a very big set. Well, it's not a small set per se, but it's a lot of reprint stuff. So we're getting shiny forms of cards that have already come out, reprints of cards that have already come out. So for example, if you already have Gardevoir and Charizard built, they're in this set. If you don't need them, you probably don't need to pick up this set. So it's a question of skip it or rip it. If you're after some collector stuff, there's a lot of really cool alt arts and the shiny Pokemon as previously mentioned, but if you're after competitive stuff, the list is pretty small of things that you'll actually need, so let's hop right into it. First one we're going to be looking at is the new Frigibax. So it's got collect, 1 water energy, draw a card. If you're opening this and you're going second, it gives you something to do. There's already a Frigibax that has 1 retreat though that's mostly seeing play, but this just gives an alternative to that. Having a slightly heftier retreat cost does make it a little bit awkward, but if you have multiple switch outs in your deck, it could be a great option to use if you're running Chien-Pao or Excalibur decks. If you're not, you probably don't need this card. So it's very deck specific. Same goes for the new Charmeleon. It's got an ability that prevents all effects of attacks from your opponent's Pokemon done to this guy. So Sableye can't ping it down. Devolution TM can't knock it down to a Charmander to take it out on very low health. It's pretty clutch. If you're evolving up manually, it could be a great one to include. Most Charizard decks are usually running at least 1, maybe 2 Charmeleons, so you'd likely be swapping it out into this one. The attack only does 50 damage though, so you're not one-shotting the Mimikyu that's blocking EX damage, so you do lose that bit of utility. So definitely something to consider if you're going to slot this in. And the other one we're getting for pre-existing deck is a new Kirlia. Gardevoir might run it. It's got the attack Psychic, 2 Psychic Energy, a colorless, 60 damage, 20 more damage for each energy attached to your opponent's active Pokemon. Post-rotation, we're losing the Mirage Step one, so maybe this takes its place, but you'd likely just go for a refinement. You don't need many more attackers, as there's a lot of basic guys we're using already. Mawile, Drifloon, Mewtwo EX, they're likely going to take that position, but it's definitely one to keep in mind. If you're opening the set, maybe hang on to 1 copy. And then we are also getting a Gengar EX coming out in Temporal Forces in April, so if you're keen for that, there's a Gengar you might want to pick up just as a secondary evolution. It's going to allow you to switch your active Pokemon with one of your bench Pokemon, so just pretty good. Tank a hit, move it around, and you're fine. Something to consider. There is a pre-evolution for it as well though. Obviously Gengar, you're going to need a Ghastly. This one does seem like the optimal one, having Allure. Similar to the Frigibax, 1 energy, draw a card. Pretty clutch, 50 HP, so it's not very big. Sableye can be taking these out 2 at a time. A little bit risky, but the fact that it's just got 1 retreat and can be drawing new cards makes it pretty clutch. So if you are starting it out, you're not in a complete pinch if you've got a dead hand. The new EX card coming out of the set though, that seems like it does have a bit of potential, likely as a control type variant to be honest, is Espathra EX. And I am 100% butchering that name, but I'm going to be honest, not going to do too much editing on this video, so it's staying in. The ability Dazzling Gaze, it's going to make the attacks of your opponent's active Pokemon cost another colorless energy. We already have Pokemon League HQ that does the same thing to basic Pokemon, so you could be shutting out decks like Miraidon EX, making it so they have to pay a ridiculous amount of energy to be attacking. They'd have to block this ability and counter that stadium, or they're going to be paying like 5 energy to attack. Same with Iron Hands, it'd have to do, what, 6 energy for Ampy very much? That sounds fine. The attack's not too bad either, and it pairs really nicely with the ability, Psyball. So 30 damage and then 30 more damage for each energy attached to both active Pokemon. You can accelerate energy out to this using something probably like Xatu. I'd say Gardevoir, but it's not a psychic type. You could have the, I think is it Flittle? The pre-evolution Flittle? You could accelerate energy out to that, but it's not going to have a lot of health, so it's not going to get you too high. It's mostly just making it that your opponent has to attach extra energy to get into decent numbers. Into something like Charizard, also hitting it for weakness, you could get up to some breakpoint numbers with it in the right conditions. That's kind of it though for the Pokemon at least, and it's mostly just situational things. So if you're running those specific decks, you could pick up these cards. The Espathra, if you're interested in it, you could pick it up. Is it going to be top tier? Probably not. I'd say likely like B or C. If you've got a build in mind though, and you're like, no, this is like the next best thing, let me know in the comments below, because I'll always happily be proven wrong. For the trainer cards though, we're getting a couple interesting ones. So Atticus, again, very deck specific. You can use this card only if your opponent's active Pokemon is poisoned. There's a couple cheeky ways you can do that, as we do have Brute Bonnet, which when it has the Ancient tool attached to it, just poison the Pokemon. You can use this and then shuffle your hand into your deck and draw 7 cards. So instead of having to use something like Research where you're discarding your hand, draw 7 can be pretty punishing. For example, Cloth, you've got DTE, you don't want to be discarding those. This is a way that you don't have to, and you're going to be running Poison already, so that's fine. Also, it's a better version of Iono, effectively. Iono, early game, you can be helping out your opponent. You're getting 6, they're getting 6. Not great. If they're poisoned, you get 7. They get no benefit out of it. Much better alternative. Poison does seem like a status condition that's going to become a bit more relevant post-rotation. So we've already got the Radiant Sneasler that makes it so when something's poisoned, take 2 more damage. We got the Brute Bonnet I already mentioned to make them poisoned. And then in Temporal Forces, we are getting a Stadium card that puts an additional 2 damage counters on things that are poisoned. So with Sneasler and that Stadium, they're taking 5 between turns with poison. So it's a great way to scale up damage. And with this, a great way to set up your hand size as well. The other supporter, the other supporter we're getting is Clive. Your opponent reveals their hand, and you're going to draw 2 cards for each supporter card you find there. This could be great for control decks where you know your opponent's hand size is going to be likely growing, and you want to get into stuff. Or just for straight draw decks like Goldengo, where you want to just straight draw into cards. You're already running things like Worker, where it's just like, hey, draw 3. This is just, hey, do you think your opponent has 2 or more supporters? That's going to get you more than the Worker does. So it could definitely be situational. Probably just slot like 1 or 2 of them into decks. If you want to go all in and run 4, you absolutely can. But in best of 3 formats, your opponent's going to pick up on the fact that you're trying to abuse the fact that they're hanging onto supporters in some situations, and they'll likely just try to avoid doing that to, well, screw you over. Like if you play this and they're holding no supporters, you draw none, and you've wasted your supporter for turn. So, neat. There is a Stadium card though. I already messed up saying Stadium instead of supporter, so we'll skip right to that. Moonlit Hill, another addition for Gardevoir. So once during your turn, you can discard a Psychic Energy from your hand in order to heal 30 damage from each of your Pokemon. Not one, every single one in play. So Gardevoir, you've got the Chilling Reign one that scales up damage based on the amount of energy attached to it. You're getting that energy out by using Gardevoir EX. That's putting damage counters on them as you're putting energy on them. So you do that, have 1 in hand, discard it, heal off some of that. You can then put that energy from the discard onto that Gardevoir, and you're getting a little bit further, right? Because previously you've got 140 HP, you're taking 20 damage each time you put an energy on it, gets up to 120, and you're like, oh, but what if I want more energy? Now you have a way to do that. That's scary. You also have ways to keep yourself out of having like 20 health left. So if your opponent's running Medicham, you could just be like, that's fine, I'll just Moonlit Hill and everything's out of range. Good. That's a very solid Stadium. I don't see it being like a 4 of. So if you're going to pick this up, again, specifically for Psychic decks, and probably just 2 copies of it will be all that you need. There is a new tool card coming out of here, another TM, the Technical Machine Crisis Punch. You can only use the attack on this card if your opponent has exactly 1 prize card remaining. But you're going to do 280 damage for 3 colorless energy. So in decks that can just flood out energy, like Baxcalibur decks, you can do it. That's pretty cool. Lightning decks, you can go Electro Generator. Raikou, for example, is capped at 220. Now you can do 280 and take out V-Star Pokemon. But the big one that I see this being played in is Lost Box decks or Radiant Charizard decks. Radiant Charizard's ability reduces the attack cost by colorless energy for the amount of prizes your opponent's taken. Well, if they've taken 3 prize cards, you're attacking for free. Cramorant as well. If you have 4 things in the Lost Zone, you're attacking for free. That's pretty nuts. Yes, they do have to be down to 1 prize card, so it is like you're just doing it to finish the game, but if it's like, hey, I just need to finish off this V-Star Pokemon, or I've already put a bit of damage into the Stage 2 EX, I just need to like send it home. You got that now. There is a handful of other cards coming out in the set. As previously mentioned, they're mostly reprint stuff though. So if you've been collecting over the last year or you already have these decks built, you don't really need to worry about them. If you're brand new to the game though, and you enjoy opening booster packs, this is a great set to get into. So we're seeing reprints of things like Charizard EX, Toedscruel EX, Gardevoir EX, also staple cards. So Professor's Research, Iono, Nest Ball, Ultra Ball, Artisan, I feel like I'm missing some, but they should be on the screen right now for you. So there you go. If you're brand new to the game, this is a great set to get started into it. If you've been playing for a bit though, it's probably one to skip. There is the shiny Pokemon though, so if you're looking to upgrade your decks, that's kind of what's going to be in it for you. Best of luck, guys. I hope you enjoyed Paldean Fates. The next big set's coming out in April though, and that is definitely going to be shaking up the meta. Till next time, stay golden.